On Saturday, April 17th, Robert Whittaker will be returning to action against Kelvin Gastelum in a fight that should have taken place 2 years ago. But for the longest time, I've always wanted to talk about my glorious karate boxing boy, Robert Whittaker.
Beautiful big right hand, wild left hand, no knees or front kick to the middle. He's hurt.
That's a head kick for Whittaker. Will land the jab there after Tavares landed heavily again to that lead leg.
And for Whittaker, you got to watch out for that slick left hook. He throws it from there. There it is.
Man, two early knockdowns for Whittaker. Tavares is gone. Robert Whittaker.
Robert Whittaker has had a pretty amazing career, considering his age and his rise in probably the most competitive part of the middleweight division. His combination of karate and boxing has created a truly interesting and nuanced style. When he's working at his best, Whittaker prefers to take the center of the cage. His in-and-out footwork might suggest something along the line of Stephen Thompson, but instead Whittaker uses his footwork to enhance some basic boxing principles. When fighting at kickboxing range, Whittaker tends to bounce at the balls at his feet with his weight forward in front of him. His weight distribution is important as it tells us what his preferred method of attack is. He will regularly pump out the jab and duck his head forward and out. Of course, Whittaker wants to use his head as a bait and create openings for him to burst into range. Once there, Whittaker will always prefer the 1-2 or a right hand to a left hook. Whittaker's jab is his best rangefinder, and he doesn't have much of an offense if he can't really get it going. By changing the rhythm and tempo, he's able to keep his opponent guessing, and because he tends to keep his lead hand low, it comes underneath the usual position of a jab and can catch his opponents by surprise. But his jabbing and posture do the heavy lifting when he wants to swing big. This is because when Whittaker jabs, his exaggerated posture throws him forward and his long stance can then move into a crouch. From under his opponent's line of sight, he can come forward with hooks or kicks. To avoid this, his opponents can either predict his charge and meet him with a strike, which is a very difficult thing to do, or they can back up and reset. This is where Whittaker's famous right head kick has worked so well. Because his opponents are so concerned with his in and out and his 1-2s, they'll often throw their heads to the right of the cross when backing up. Because head kicks have the same motion as a right cross, this pairing is incredibly lethal. This is what caught Jacare as he tried to avoid the right hand, and Cannonier fell for the same switch up. But like I said earlier, given Whittaker's footwork, his kicking game nearly isn't as diverse as I'd like it to be. But because he's always moving in and out, he can hop into kicking range with his rear leg and land some pretty nasty low kicks. It's a bit of an awkward kicking position, but it doesn't leave him quite as exposed. Against Adesanya, his lack of setups and diversity in his kicking game allowed Adesanya to slip his kicks and straight up block them. But what has always worried me has been Whittaker's game after his bursts. When the fighter uses an in and out style, the biggest worry has been the entries. If you don't disguise your entries well enough, you can easily get knocked out. But the problem for Whittaker, however, is what happens after he bursts into range. When Whittaker lost to Adesanya, it wasn't a necessarily clever setup that ended his night, but rather his inability to shift his weight and reset his stance. Basically, Adesanya realized that when Whittaker bursted into range, his body weight was completely ahead of his hips and his lead leg. What resulted was Whittaker stumbling to recover his balance after throwing haymakers, so Adesanya would then give Whittaker space when he felt that Whittaker had overstepped his lead foot, stand his ground and throw back. Without a stance to sit in and his chin far past his hips, Whittaker was a sitting duck for the counter. The same can be said for his second fight against Romero, arguably the most damaging fight in his career. Apart from his misread when throwing a kick, a lot of Whittaker's worst moments came when he began to throw in combination and running forward. His posture is so far over his hips that anything beyond the 1-2 will go way over the line. While it's a style perfect for closing distance, it also leaves him incredibly open after his combination. What I wanted to see from Whittaker was a stopping mechanic. This is something that's built in for fighters that want to burst forward. To stop your forward momentum, you need to find a way to equally distribute that momentum, or else you either blow your knee open or throw your upper body completely forward. The latter is what Whittaker struggles with, and another karate boxing boy has an interesting solution. When I made a Patreon exclusive for the fight site, I talked about how Kyoji Horiguchi rolled the ball of his lead foot when he wanted to stop his forward momentum. So after bursting into range, Horiguchi will often swing his right leg forward and bend at the knees, creating a wide stance that he can then weave through to stop his momentum but also hit back. Whittaker in his most recent fight seems to address this kind of weakness. While he didn't commit beyond the 1-2 very often, Whittaker clearly understood he needed to swing his right leg forward to catch the momentum of his right hand. After that, he could bend at the waist and fire off a hook. It appeared in rare sightings, but it was clear that Whittaker understood that he needed a way to safely stay in stance after running forward. I think the Adesanya fight was especially punishing for Whittaker, as he prefers to be the one coming forward and making his opponents flinch. But he did have great moments where he was able to catch Adesanya, and I think building a stop mechanic for his bursts will surely help. I can't help but think that the Gastelum fight is a bit of a layup for Whittaker. For one, Gastelum doesn't have quite the defense that Adesanya has, or the sheer power of Romero to force Whittaker back. Whittaker has all the right tools to really show off his strong points, but also his defensive reactions. I'm super excited for Saturday night, and I hope you will be too. This has been a quick breakdown of my karate boxing boy, Robert Whittaker. If you like our content, please like, comment, or subscribe. If you want to continue supporting us further, subscribe to our Patreon. For $3 a month, you can get access to our exclusive content, such as alternate commentary tracks, documentaries, video essays, and podcast episodes. Thanks for watching.